another episode of Design Divas, where we talk about all things design and architecture. I'm Pavitra and this is Sheila from Shilpa Architects in Chennai. And today we're going to talk about a component of design without which we can't really do any of our projects or our work, and that is the client. So I think we just wanted to kind of walk through your experience and a little bit of my experience in dealing with different types of clients and how they become an integral part of our design process here at Shilpa Architects. So ma'am, over the years, I'm sure you've dealt with different types of clients, whether they're corporate, whether they're like individual homeowners, whether they're developers. And this typically tends to be the type of, the majority of the folks that we deal with. I just wanted you to start by telling me a little bit about, the differences that you find in working with the different kinds of clients out there.
Pavitra, I've always thought that design, as designers, when we design the built environment, we are doing it for the person.
Right. It's a very personal product. Yes.
So it is the client. So we get into their shoes and, we try to understand their, all their requirements.
Sure.
Whether it is psychological, whether it is, cultural, whether it is, physical, and whether it is budgetary.
Of course.
So you understand all this completely and empathize with them.
That's right.
And when you are able to give a solution which answers all these intangibles, the design comes out well.
Right.
If there is a disconnect in any of these aspects, then the design obviously does not suit the client.
Right. Right. I guess it's kind of a very collaborative and transparent effort.
Yes.
In the sense, they have to sort of lay out all their requirements, almost, come clean or lay it all bare, so that then we are able to take it and then process it in a way in which it can then be translated to the right product, right?
Yes. In fact, what has struck me after all these years is some of the best friends of mine are my clients.
Right.
Because you get so close to and interact with them, then you kind of empathize with their situation, and then you advise them, and then so it is a process which builds a kind of a relationship which is true friendship.
Right. So talk a little bit more as a takeaway from that, where the client sort of puts you in the role of a leader or a friend that is like completely trusted, versus when you're just given a portion of the entire process to navigate, which is surely just an architectural translation, and what the difference is between the two types of projects.
See, obviously the responsibility of being a leader and having a total trust of your client and being able to translate all their desires, inner desires, and requirements into a fabulous design is much more.
Yeah.
So then doing just a part of it where you feel okay, that is the part that you have to deal with, and that is more straightforward.
Right.
But when you are you actually mentor the design process.
Give me some examples of where you've kind of had an opportunity to mentor the design process, or to actually handhold a client at a really on every little level.
Of course, when you're doing houses and homes, it is so much more.
Absolutely.
Because you not only handhold the owner's hands, but it's the family that you are involved with.
Right.
And I have kind of taken the same kind of a relationship building with my other clients as well. Whereas I have clients of mine who are industry leaders and who are institutional leaders, and they too, we have nurtured a similar kind of a rapport. So, everything that they do and every joy and every success of theirs, they feel is a part of us also.
Nice, very nice.
So which is phenomenal, because you also begin to empathize better, you also understand them better, and they too reciprocate.
Right.
So unless that give and take is there,
Right, it
the
becomes
design
difficult.
doesn't work out the way it should.
Right.
And I always believe that a design for a person who really intently wants it from you to be the translator of their requirements comes out very well.
Correct. No,
Comes
that's
out
true.
so well.
That's true.
Then a half-hearted kind of just a brief on a paper, and a imaginary client, and then you do what you think is right. Yes, that's also design, but it is not as fruitful as the other
result. So just as a takeaway from my personal example, from my experience, one particular sort of story or incident that I want to sort of narrate at this point is where I had to work on helping our client curate the last bit of the house and just sort of put it together. Usually this is not something that we typically do as architects, but she's a very dear friend of mine, and it so happened that we've grown up together, we've taken art classes as kids together, and there was the trust that I'm going to tell this person what I need, and then she's going to get it done. And so the client in this case actually just said to me, this is what I broadly have, and these are my pieces of artwork, and we need to just compose it on the wall. And I was like, okay. And she just left me in the room, and within like a couple of minutes I put it together, and she was like, it's perfect, you've got it exactly right. And that's what hangs on the wall today. And and every time she looks at that, she's like, this is your work, this is your work. And it's the smallest thing.
Absolutely.
But I mean, apart from like the hundreds of things that you handle in a house, but it's that finishing touch that I thought was very rewarding for her to see on a daily basis, that I thought was a really nice example.
Pavitra, what is also I find very important is that level of trust. The trust that you have on the client, and the trust that the client has on you.
Right.
And that kind of reverberates in the design.
Right. The other type of clients that I wanted to kind of talk to you about a little bit, Sheila ma'am, today was the corporate clients, or clients that have businesses where we're not necessarily designing a house or something of a very small scale, but we are looking at designing maybe their new corporate identity, or a kind of a campus for them, or maybe even a factory. And in that cases, we've always found that we've got two types of clients, right? The corporates, where the company is family owned, as a family owned business, and then the other type, which is a completely corporate setup. And intrinsically working with these, I know, are quite different.
Complex.
So no, I mean complex, of course, but like they're different, I mean, in each way.
Right.
So what would you say are the subtle differences you found?
In family owned businesses, large corporates, I'm talking about a very large corporate, I don't want to mention names, but they came to me and said, our problem in the offices are that the level of entitlement felt by the managers is too much. Some of them put their legs on the table and are
Right.
sitting around in a cabin, in a closed cabin. So we want that openness.
So it was
this
almost a cultural change.
cultural change. So they wanted to bring about this cultural change, and we did it through design.
Right.
So we had to talk to the managers, and we had to talk to the management, and strike a via media between the two. So we brought about this office cabins with see-through partitions, with
Right.
glass at floor level and above lintel level, and between sill level and lintel level it was closed. So what this did was that when the person was inside the cabin, the manager,
Automatically there was a
when
change
he
in
was
behavior.
sitting, he felt that nobody was seeing him. But actually, the floors were integrated,
Right.
and the roofs were integrated visually. So it gave that sense of, freedom to
Very
them.
nice.
So,
Very nice.
so
Yeah.
this was something that, and I'm very happy to say that the management came back and told me about the feedback. They were very apprehensive of this.
Right.
Because, it cannot...
it shouldn't upset a certain balance.
a certain cultural balance which is there in the company. So then they came back to us and said that this has been a success.
Perfect. Yeah,
So,
which is what the result
yeah.
was that we were looking for.
Absolutely. So this is something that struck me as, where we kind of empathize totally with what the management wants on one hand and what the manager or the occupant of the cabin wants on the other. And, kind of strike a design solution that addresses both.
Right. And on the corporate front, where it is a completely, corporately run with a proper, professional sort of hierarchy of management and organization, what have you found that the working style tends to be? Or the decision-making style tends to be?
That is relatively easier because, you are given a brief, you're given a requirement, and maybe the boss of the office, by the time the office is complete, is not there even in as a part of the organization.
Right,
so
and
it
especially
is a very
in large organizations, like even our banking clients and people like that, we find that there is a lot of change at the higher level. Yeah.
Higher level. So you find that, it is just, you go by the piece of paper.
The brief stands.
Yeah, but the brief stands, and though it is impersonal, that's sacrosanct.
Right. That sort of becomes the constitution for the project.
The DNA of the,
Right.
what we have to do.
So while we're talking about, the corporate clients and how they have a kind of a management system in place to see that the building is built, and we've also talked a little bit about how very often there could be a change in that management. And while the project lasts, say, 5 or 7 years, and certain decisions are made, say, in year 1, sometimes we find that as the building progresses, those same decisions are questioned once the people in charge also change. Maybe the priority changes or the way in which they're thinking about it changes. There's been a change in their leadership style or whatever it is, right? So typically, how have you managed this change and managed change management, if you can say it that way?
This is really fascinating, Pavitra, because in all these long gestation projects, or even in projects where we are involved with the public sectors,
right,
which spread over decades,
right,
and how things change. Okay, so then what happens is they look up to you to tell the story of how it began.
right.
And if we are in a position to thread that story to the current cultural situation, then you can take on from there as another chapter.
Right.
So it is quite seamless
Right.
that way. But what happens sometimes is when people are unwilling to listen to history or what has been handed down to them,
as a sequence,
as
yeah.
a sequence, then when they do a change, then it
disrupts the design.
Yeah, it's like a discordant note.
Right, right.
So this ability to be able to intertwine the sequencing without a glitch is, I think, the key.
Right. It's almost like the architect is the conductor of this entire opera. And we have to keep making sure that everything is going in flow.
Absolutely. And sometimes when you have different stakeholders with different parameters, because today design is becoming very complex.
Right.
So, you have to deal with multiple stakeholders.
Right.
And each stakeholder has a story of their own.
Right.
And you have to weave the different stories as one single story for your design.
Right.
So that is challenging, but it is beautiful because, the kind of studies and the analysis that you do and how you integrate them is the design, ultimately how it comes and the design intent.
So it's interesting that you brought up this word stakeholder, because it's something that I think when we work on larger urban planning and urban design projects is something that you hear a lot, because a design charrette usually has multiple stakeholders, out of which one is, of course, the government agencies. And then we also have the consultants or the team of experts who are studying various aspects of the city or the location design or whatever the space is. And the most important aspect that I kind of found very fascinating very early in my study was the participation of citizens. So citizen participation, which is a mandate in most of our kind of public workshops, where people who are the larger community, your end users, are also invited to sort of understand the design. So very often at a concept stage or at a draft proposal stage, these ideas are taken out into the public and there's a citizen kind of a vote on what needs to be done or what needs to be done. And then their feedback gets rolled into the plan, because then it's really a question of design being inclusive of everybody.
Absolutely. That's how it should be done.
Right. Yeah. The other thing that I found very interesting is where, while we have stakeholders who usually sit at a table, whether it's a building committee or specific experts, there have been a few projects where we've actually sent out surveys to everybody in the company, right? Where we've done a survey, and even on home projects, Sheila ma'am, we've found that this is very effective, because the survey result of the parents versus the grandparents versus the children of the family yield very different results.
Absolutely.
So it's like, while one wants, like a simple example, I want to have, pet friendly upholstery, or, I want to be able to have like a small area where I can have a tuck away puja area, little things that kind of come out for personal preferences. And I think that allows us to also go ahead and customize the design to that particular aspect is what makes it very exciting.
Yes. And of course, God is in the detailing. So,
yes.
The more detailed you go, the better the design is.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's been a great discussion today. I mean, we've talked a little bit about all our different types of clients, ranging from government clients to the citizens who participate in a design process, right down to corporate, institutional, residential clients, developers a little bit, as well as, the individual client who's then coming out to build their home. So I think there's a whole range of experiences that we've had and kind of talked a little bit about today. So please do like, share and subscribe for more such content. And it's a wrap today for Design Divas. Thank you.